Hey y'all, I just recently got an email on one of my favorite topics, lab values. More importantly, why on earth do I need to know them anyway, right? The lab's just going to tell me what high and low is, and then I'll report that value to my physician. Why do I need to spend my time or my brain space trying to cram all that information in, right? So let's use potassium as an example, and here's what the real point is. The important thing is that you know what abnormal looks like on your patient, what symptoms they will present to you based on an abnormal reading before you've ever seen the actual lab value. So potassium's norm is 3.5 to 5.0, right? Oh, awesome. That's great that you know that. There will be 0 questions on the NCLEX that ask you to say that. There will never be a coworker that asks you to remind them what that is. And your patient will not ever know what that value is. They're not going to sit up and say, "Hi, my name's Earl. I'm your patient today, and my potassium is 5.4. Could you please help me?" It sounds silly, right? And it is silly. What Earl will do instead is present you with signs of having too much potassium. He may have cramps or diarrhea. He may be kind of weak. You may see some wonky things going on his cardiac monitor. You may see him very anxious or irritable. He may tell you he's got some tingling in his fingers and toes around his mouth. Those are the things that alert you to the fact that something's going on with Earl's potassium. More importantly, they should alert you to the fact that you need to do something about it. So if you can learn that the potassium normal is 3.5 to 5.0 and how to recognize that from a lab slip, that's good. It will get you through nursing school. If you can learn to recognize the symptoms of high or low potassium without looking at the lab, but by looking at your patient, it will be rooted in your brain, and that is even better. Because here's what's going to happen. You don't have a lot of time when you're in a patient situation. You're not always going to have labs in front of you. Sometimes labs don't get drawn for 24 hours, or only once a day at facilities. Sometimes only when there's a symptom. So the more you can do to root them in your brain, right, the better off you're going to be. Once you learn what symptoms are associated with each particular thing, then you can kind of start to connect those to disease processes, right? So, learn that a potassium of 9 usually only happens in patients that have renal failure or burns or acidosis, right? Maybe somebody that's taking a potassium-sparing diuretic. Then you learn what's the intervention that you're going to perform as Nurse Awesome based on the fact that your patient has so much potassium, You're going to do something to get the potassium out of their system. Normally give them a drug called Kayexalate, which is not fun. Anyway, if your patient's vomiting or has NG suction going on, or they're on a diuretic, maybe they're having a lot of muscle cramps, maybe there are frequent PVCs on their monitor, you should have a bell go off in your head. Ding, 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 ding. Maybe my patient has really low potassium and I need to do something as Nurse Awesome to help my patient not be put in that situation. Maybe we need to get them some potassium. So this becomes super important when you're working on a floor that does not have cardiac monitor, because you're going to have to rely on the symptoms the patient presents to you long before you start to see those PVCs or those tall peak T waves or the widening QRS complexes on a cardiac monitor. You need to be super sharp and ready to help your patient, because high potassium can turn into VTAC pretty quick, and we all know where that goes. So don't forget to ask yourself when you're learning those particular values, like, what am I worried about here? In this case, too much potassium turns into VTAC, which turns into a dead patient. I don't want that. Plan to address that in your care, right? Remember, it's your job to anticipate and plan for the safety of your patient. You want to keep them alive, right? So when you're learning labs, focus on the how, the why, the what you're going to see, rather than focusing on the normal or abnormal number. Remember, you want to know what it looks like when you see it in your patient, not when you see it on a computer screen. So I hope that helps you a little bit understand why it's so important to learn labs now. And I hope it helps you not to be quite so frustrated when you're spending that extra time learning labs. Until next time, you guys, peace, y'all.